have a big lake that is hopefully coming up in the next year. That might be the better place for rainwater harvesting than expecting every individual to create. Right now, the middle classes have completely seceded from public water supply, isn't it? Everyone has their own storage tanks, everyone has, or they have their own bore wells. But we have to see at what level. Some rate of rainwater harvesting as locally as possible may be the way to go for the near future.
But then lake may not be that effective because due to evaporation, some amount of water would be lost.
So combination of these things perhaps, yeah.
Okay, I have a very general question. Okay, recently we read that the Delhi government is thinking to privatize the Delhi Jal Board. So is it the right solution, like they privatized the electricity earlier, the NDPL was taken over by Tata Power now, but due to that the cost of the electricity also has gone high, although there were less power cuts in Delhi after that. So is it the right solution to privatize and to increase the cost of water that we get, rather than creating a awareness among the citizens that we should use it efficiently?
Okay, I was expecting this question a long time ago, an hour ago. Somehow it didn't come till now. I think there is a real conflict of paradigms in this. There is a very deep fissure about the role of public and private, especially in water in our country. And it's a dialogue that has been ongoing for some time and is unnecessarily, according to me, polarized. I think the debate is fairly settled that water assets cannot be privatized. No, in very few countries in the world has it ever happened, and the experience with privatization has not generally been good in the world, except possibly in one or two countries. And so I think the debate has moved beyond. I think it's an artificial debate. I think it's not about. We have to define what we mean by privatization. I don't think people are suggesting that private entities are handed over community assets or water assets, which are actually public common property resources, right? I think the debate is whether even private service providers can have some kind of contracts that will allow them to be in charge of distribution of water. I think our debate is very sharply polarized along ideological lines in India. So when you say Delhi government is trying to privatize water, I think we need to first define privatize. I think there may be some contracts that are imagined to be given out, some concessions that are imagined to be given out for water supply distribution in a particular area. And I think without going very much into the politics of it, I think this debate is healthy. I think we should be talking about what is the private role of private entities in water distribution, and whether in fact we have a society where there is good enough governance that we can safely say that we have the ability to create good contracts that will work out in the public interest. Eventually, you have to look at it in that way. Is this contract with a private entity, is it genuinely serving the public interest for the longest time? Or is something going wrong? Are prices going too high, beyond affordability? So unless we are able to have a system that fairly and transparently creates concessionary agreements that are shown to be in the public interest over a period of time, then certainly the debate must remain very much alive.
The thirst finally may get quenched now.
What's that?
I am saying that my thirst will finally be able to be quenched now because I've been raising my hand. Okay, forget that. The issue of...
I missed some joke, I'm sorry.
Jokes apart.
Your thirst will be quenched now because it's 1 o'clock.
You got a chance.
Yeah, tell me.
The issue of water and the water security in India is surely, won't be wrong to say, is lying in political waters. So, former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he proposed a unique idea, unique in the sense that wasn't much prevalent in those times in the common thinking. He told of interlinkages of state waters or state rivers. So can you throw some light on this or the technique that he proposed? I know they are on the advisory panels and everybody is doing this and that, won't come into existence. But do you think this technique that he proposed might bring up some solution?
I think, without disagreeing with our former president, I think this is another debate that has been very polarized, and some people believe it's that if there's so much extra water somewhere and so little water somewhere, why not build these huge pipes and connect them all up? My personal feeling about it is, while it sounds like a very good idea, it bases itself on many assumptions which may or may not be correct. First of all, the very troubling question of, is there really excess water there? Do we really know? And with climate change and all kinds of uncertainties looming, can we really say that there is excess water in some of those basins and that there will be excess water for the next 20 years? If you're planning to build this kind of huge infrastructure at this kind of expense, then shall we first look at the experience of interbasin transfer that we already have and then base this in a much more deep and rigorous inquiry, first just on our current experience, and then also philosophically. I feel that idea holds not a little hubris to think that we can tame those mighty rivers over there. Just 3 years ago, the river Kosi in Bihar decided to change course by 200 kilometers. What kind of infrastructure, however well designed, can we envisage which will prevent the Kosi from doing that? The experience of simple embankments in Bihar has been so atrocious so often for the people over there, has caused silting in those rivers and more flooding than there would have been without the embankments. So I am personally deeply troubled at the thought of talking glibly about interlinking rivers of that nature. I think much more inquiry has to go before we back an idea like that.
Have you ever thought of water as a commodity wherein you have worked on pricing as an issue? Because once you increase the price, water is basically a commodity which is linked to a certain price and consumption will depend on that price.
Right.
Similarly will be the issue on sanitation. Even sanitation has a price.
Surely.
People are trying to say okay, why people go into the open and things like that. There is a function of price.
Yeah. To some extent, it is a function of price. So yeah, right at the end of our 1.5 hours together, all the politically dynamic questions have been thrown out. I was really expecting you to ask me them a long time ago and was fully prepared to answer them. Now in the last 2 minutes, let's see what I can do. So the questions of the role of private enterprise in water supply, the question about interlinking rivers, and the question of whether water is a public good or an economic good or both. Well, there's the heat of the conversation seems to have sparked. As the questions are getting hotter, I think they couldn't stand the heat. Okay, these are really important questions to ask. The government seems to be saying that when it comes to basic fundamental rights to water, we have to look at water as a public good. But over and above that, perhaps water can be looked at as an economic good. Now, so that's where current thinking is. Current thinking is going that way. Where does price come into water? I think, again, instead of having a very political debate over whether water can be priced ever and at all, I'll say that even when it comes to drinking water supply, local panchayats together with their communities have found perfectly adequate pricing solutions. They have said that, yes, beyond a certain amount of water, you can price water even for drinking. So the thing to ask is, who gets to decide? Where do those decisions on price get made? And exactly what is the value that gets captured in that price?
I increase the price by say 50 paisa per liter, then I will start expecting quality.
Okay.
All these issues will get addressed because this can happen only in metros. What you are saying in Bangalore, the price is X. You increase it by 1 rupee more than what that X is, and you will start getting better quality here. Because
Right.
people will start demanding it.
So I would say we should look at it in its totality. The cost of production of water in Bangalore and what Bangalore citizens are charged for the water, there's a delta of something like 11 rupees.
Yes.
So I get charged 11 rupees less per kiloliter than it costs the government to supply me with that water.
That subsidy
Right?
should go.
So where should that subsidy, whom should that subsidy go to? Where should it come from? These are not questions that are easy to resolve. Some of my activist friends truly believe that all drinking water should be given free, that it is a fundamental right, and there is no question whatsoever of pricing drinking water because it is your fundamental right. Whether it should not be price should not come into it at all is what they believe. However, the fact is that there is a cost of production of that water. The rain may be free on your head, but the tap inside your house, somebody has to pay for it. Now, whether it should be paid through the public exchequer entirely, whether each one of us should get that water free, or whether those who can afford it should pay, are the political debates of the time. And the fact is that enough studies have been done to show that people will pay for a reliable service of water, and those who cannot pay should be protected, isn't it? When there are people who cannot afford to pay, they have to be protected, they have to be subsidized. But is there some golden mean where those who can pay should pay?
Problem is,
that's a political question. Who gets to decide?
Who gets to decide?
Yeah.
Like, how do you cross-subsidize a slum with a posh colony, say somewhere in Vasantpur itself? There is a slum nearby.
Yes.
So the price that TERI gets water for cannot be the price that is charged for the slum.
Correct.
Right next door.
So, it's being done. Again, this is not rocket science. We can come to those consensus. It's not so difficult. In fact, the people in that slum are probably paying much more than the people in this area, because they don't have adequate subsidized government water supply. So I am probably paying much less for my drinking water than some of my neighbors in the slums of Koramangala. So, I mean, it's a really frightening situation when you think of it like that. So who is going to bear the burden of cost of production of water, and who gets to decide the design of that water supply system on which all these prices are based? So these are the questions that are going to keep coming up, and I think they are solvable so long as we just get on with it.
Have you done some research?
We have done some work in the city of Mulbagal, and the people there have talked about pricing that water. Right now it's at a flat rate. They're beginning to talk of volumetric pricing. So once the dialogues begin, and once you include all the correct people from all the constituencies for that dialogue, I think solutions do emerge and have emerged in many panchayats, thousands of panchayats around the country. Those dialogues have happened. Sensible pricing systems have been put into place. So it's not like it's something that cannot be solved. One last question, maybe two questions, and I'll try to answer them.
I am staying at Gurgaon.
Oh.
Constructed a house in my own plot.
Right.
Where it is compulsory to get your plans approved that you are doing rainwater harvesting. But actually, I feel it is not functional at all, because rainwater harvesting, not just putting the rainwater harvesting pit, for maintenance also you have certain rules and regulations, which is not possible for an individual to comply. So I think it is, you have to take a decision as to at what level the rainwater harvesting should be done.
Okay.
Maybe, a group of 10, a group of 100, group of 50, so that it is actually
No, you're right. This has to come out of direct experience.
Yeah.
Whether it should be at the apartment building level, it cannot be. That's what I'm saying. Eventually, is it right to expect at every household, every citizen to take on the responsibility of rainwater harvesting? Is it possible? Because it does require some operations and maintenance, but it's not as difficult. It's not that difficult. It's possible to put in systems.
Yes,
but I see the point that you're making. Yeah.
Yes, and awareness also,
Yeah.
how to maintain and how to
Yes,
carry on.
it is
Similarly,
true. There
for
are
the,
issues of maintenance.
water recycle, same as this.
No, I agree with you. There are issues of operations and maintenance, and we have to. Yeah, last question, please.
Ma'am, go back to this interstate linkage of water. It may not be possible interstate, but within state also. We pray like AP, we pray every day for rains. There are a lot of rains, but rains entering, water entering to the houses. So we have to do something within state. I think there is no possibility disputes. So there are fluoride districts also. So we can linkage water harvest and we can supply rainwater. Something we can do intrastate.
There have been, of course, a lot of intrastate, intra-basin transfers already going on all over the country. So that does happen a lot. I think we've come to a close of this session, but before I close, I'd like to say a couple of sentences. You know, I've tried to give you some broad picture, brought in some data. Unfortunately, I didn't describe enough the great joy of being part of the projects that Argyam has been involved with, where you see how people's ingenuity has come together for them to make sure that whatever little water they have, they're able to manage so well, and there's so much for us to learn from. But I want to say that on closing, that none of us can take water for granted. And that as a society, we need to start again valuing water the way we used to. And urban people especially, we cannot take water for granted. We should not take water for granted. Let's all begin to learn again to deeply value this resource, without which, of course, there can be no life. Thank you very much.